baru ada. Oh. Alright. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon. Thanks for those who participating for today PAMSo webinar. First of all, I would welcome everybody who is actually free today to join our webinar today. We are making it a bit casual today. On top of that, I think today Johor Bahru a bit chaos because of the Johor election. So I think we just take it casual today. And the topic also today, I think it's a bit technical. It's a digital architecture practice by our PAMSo partners in our digital drive. Actually, I would like to introduce our ArTV Muhaimin Jamaluddin from studioKAIZEN. I think the topic today is actually digital architecture practice. Before I dwell into ARTV presentation, webinar today, I would like to say thank you to actually this series are actually from PAM CSR committee, PAM CPD committee headed by Zarin. So we from the PAMSo would like to thank for the opportunity by Zarin for giving the opportunity to share what Southern Chapter and Southern members are actually promoting digital architecture practice. I think on this is appear for this series because I think this is actually one of our last series for the digital series. So I think as far as I think for a few months we have been promoting a webinar in a new and fresh digital form. So I hope we got a lot of I hope we actually our drive to show that is another way of doing another way of looking things at the traditional thing, a conventional thing. So we started out with rebranding our webinar format so that it will be relevant to PKP last time. So we are still able to communicate our webinar effectively to members, not only from the Southern Chapter, also from all over Malaysia. And we thank you for those who are supporting us since last year. I think I would like to share a bit on the digital drive. Basically, we from last year when we decided to go with the digital webinar, we actually expecting it to be disruptive, to be challenging, because I think being a disruptive technology, digital is always a challenge to members who actually especially for the generation of me 50 plus 5 series plus. So I think we have actually given a lot of opportunity in Southern Chapter to let our younger architects, we call it Youthify group, to actually present their capability in digital architecture. I think, of course, UTM also has been helping us also in terms of promoting the youth, the student to actually embrace digital to move forward in architecture. So I think what PAMSo expected was, if you're familiar with the economic term, we call it the chasm. I think we expected our digital to be we targeted within the chasm itself. So I think this year we are trying to cross the chasm. We are trying to cross more than 50% for 50% participation supporting PAMSo digital program. So I hope this year we get more people to actually impress the early majority and the low majority. If you're familiar with the understand the digital drive by PAMSo. So hopefully this year we have more new programs, different programs from what we have done last year to attract more of the early majority and the late majority if we refer to the bell curve concept. So on top of that, I think for those who are actually really into digital, I hope, especially the younger generation, if you have the opportunity, I think you should read the books that I've been referring to a lot, The Future of the Profession. It is basically mentioning the digital being disruptive is actually not changing, not replacing the architecture industry. It's actually changing role from traditional architecture, conventional architecture, to the digital architecture that our speaker will be sharing today. So I think that's from PAMSo ideas and concepts. So I think again, I would like to thank you all those participants who actually have been loyal to PAMSo program. Thank you very much. We hope that you will continue with us for the 2022 with more exciting programs that we have lined up for the entire year until December this year. And I think we will constantly promoting digital architecture, knowing that the COVID is still not hasn't disappeared yet. We still are being tested with another challenge. So without wasting any time, so I think I will pass the baton to our speaker, Afi Muhaimin Jamaluddin. If the age matters, so Afi is, I think you are 31 years old? 32. So this is 32 years old. He has been, has been promoting digital architecture in the southern region to a lot of GLCs in Johor to share what he has proposed to look at our conventional architecture in a different and refreshing concept. So I think your stage is yours.
Okay. Thank you. Let me put my slides on the screen first. So good evening to everyone. Firstly, I'd like to thank Pertubuhan Architect Malaysia Southern Chapter for inviting me for this session. Not forgetting PAM CPD committee. Thank you again, PAM Southern Chapter Chairman Architect Farid for the opportunity and inviting me to the ArTV virtual studio. So it's a bit different from a normal webinar. So I hope this kind of presentation should excite you a bit more. So thank you to our esteemed guests for joining this sharing session. Apologies if there's campur-campur between Malay and English. Because there's some rama-rama in saya punya perut. So joking aside, again, I know this session is going to be around an hour, but my sharing session will probably take around less than that. So it should be the easiest CPD point that you can get for a webinar. So joking aside, again, this should be short and sweet. So today's session, I'll be talking about digital architecture practice. So next slide, please. Let me introduce myself. Hi, I'm Architect Afi from studioKAIZEN. So like Architect Farid mentioned just now, I'm 32 years old. So I'm not too old and I'm not too young. So a bit in the 3 series. So about myself and studioKAIZEN a bit. So we like to experiment with a variety of things. So system and app developments, creating metaverses, video production, animation, photography, drone shooting pictures and whatnot, and so on and so forth. But today's session I'll be sharing primarily on the system and application development subject and how it can potentially help architects practice much more efficiently. Next, please. Okay, let me get the general premise out of the way. What the fudge is digital architecture practice? No, it's not just about scanning your documents. No, it's not becoming Iron Man, X-ray scanning for defects or issues at the construction site. Well, at the very least, not yet. I believe that the term digital is broad and should not be restricted or relegated to just using building information modeling or BIM in the architecture profession. So there's a wide range of technologies that are available to us. Some may be more sophisticated than others. In my opinion, technology should be used as a tool to help architects practice much more effectively and efficiently. So in this session, I'll be sharing my humble journey towards digitalizing architecture, specifically from a project management standpoint, via the introduction of a system and app that we use during the schematic design until the final completion phase. So again, this is only the beginning. It's not a fully complete product. As always, this is a work in progress. So with that in mind, let's talk about some problems in project development. Unfortunately, there's a lot of inconvenient wastages that happen in the project development. So it is extremely complex, meaning there's a lot of documentations, SOPs, regulations, requirements, contracts that need to be complied with. It extends to the different stakeholders that are involved in any project. So you need not only to deal with yourself, but you also need to deal with your client or your developer, your consultants, and also your contractor. So it's very, very complex. It is less disruptive. So for example, using conventional methods, in my experience, there's a lot of projects that we still use hard copy reports, especially the contractor's monthly progress report. There's a lot of inefficient coordination between the stakeholders. Ayam versus itik. So essentially, consultants and contractors not being on the same wavelength. This happens in my experience, especially with the smaller projects and contractors. Differences in IT capability also accounts for this. Non-conclusive data, inconvenience distance. So of course, you might have a project which is situated far from your office. As such, daily site inspections might not be as viable, even though as an architect, you are bound to your responsibility and your professional ethics. It makes it a bit harder to do your job much more efficiently. Human dependencies. Of course, if you're relying on someone, there's always a possibility for human error. Your staff or even yourself can, forget misplaced documents, don't know, and all kind of things. So, and this results in an ineffective decision making. So these are some of the problems that can happen in project development. So let's take a look at some statistics from Lembaga Architect. This is taken from the LAM website. So as at January 2022, there's around 75% of sole proprietorship practices of registered firms in Malaysia. Now, the reason why I bring this up is that I believe that using a system and application will be most beneficial to the sole prop practices, which are the majority of practices here in Malaysia. In my experience, there's a need for manpower to carry out the work, and so it must be done in an efficient manner. So by introducing said system and application, hopefully you can carry out the work much more efficiently. Okay, so this is one such example of a system and application. I call it a master plan that we are building, which I name SK4COD. It's meant to add value and supplement our original architectural consultancy services by using the gig economy platform in addition to IR 4.0 technology. So essentially taking specialists from other fields and incorporating them into our basic services in conjunction with technology. So we believe that by combining creativity and information technology, we can add value to the architecture profession. Again, like I said earlier, this is not replacing, oh, maybe I didn't. This is not replacing our architectural basic services as per the architect rules, but we intend to again value add to them so that we can provide a more seamless project management service to the client. So all in all, we have 21 systems and applications in development. Okay, so if you can see this slide, essentially it's our basic services as per the architect rules, from schematic design to the final completion phase. So based on these scope of works, we've created an app to coincide with each of it. So each app is unique and is used for specific purposes based on the scope of work as per the basic services slide I showed just now. Okay, I think I need to elaborate a bit more on why we need to use a system and app. So firstly, is in terms of cost efficiency. Having this system and app can help you save costs. For example, you can reduce your printing costs, and you can also reduce time preparing reports. It's available anywhere, anytime. So the system allows for the stakeholders to be interconnected at all times. Say that if your contractor is in another place and your developer is in another place, you can still connect to each other via the app. Third, it acts as an anti-bribery management system. Because the app is transparent, it helps mitigate bribery and the perkara-perkara yang apa bagi duit kopi ke apa, for example. So, for example, when you key in the information is transparent and so that everyone could see it. And if you make changes, those changes will be stored in the history of the app. So you'll know if the information is altered and by who it is altered with. Using an app can also help you with tracking your individual tasks. And it also will update accordingly whenever a task is finished. In essence, every process in a project development can be broken down into smaller chunks of tasks. And by using this app, you can trace back each task that you do and when you did it. So, for example, in our building e-report system application, as the developer, you can track your defect complaints by the homeowner much more systematically. As a consultant, you are now much more aware of the defects that occur in the defect liability period. And as a contractor, you can plan which defects to rectify beforehand. So more on this app in a bit. Again, there's a potential to create individual unique report cards. So let's say your home buyer has a house. So let's say you're a developer with a 500 unit project, for example. Each of the units can have their own report cards, and each report card can store the history of the building itself from the beginning of the construction until the final completion of the phase. Again, there's you can get access to data analytics. So this is helpful for consultants, especially in terms of reading data provided by the contractor. So for example, the contractor's physical and financial curves, S-curves, their manpowers, machinery, site diaries, and so on and so forth. All of this can be available inside the app. Real-time data synchronization. So of course, any input from the consultants, developers, or the contractors can be synchronized in real time. So for example, if there's a request for information from the contractor, the consultant will instantly see it after the contractor sends it. And of course, it will CC a copy to the developer. So again, every step of the way, the developer is notified of the if any issues arise. Time efficiency. Again, this kind of goes hand in hand with regarding saving costs. You spend less time preparing reports, so the time saved means you're saving money. So time is money, so save a lot of money like that. Reduce wastage and carbon footprint. Of course, you'll be using your devices which are on you at all times. So this is pretty much self-explanatory. Reduce misplaced documents. Again, all data will be stored in the cloud, so it's always available, and it will reduce the human error problem of misplacing documents. It might not be as apparent when the project is currently going through, but it could be in a few years where you forget where you put the damn documentation. Save valuable storage space. So your drawings, your documents, your document tenders, your whatever take space. So in the long term, it might not be feasible for it to be stored physically. So I suggest that you might do it online. Files, folders, drawings, books, X, etc. will take less space if it's virtual. So, for example, in one of our projects, our client was adamant in using hard copy, printed copies of defect complaints by the homeowner. So as such, as you can see in the image, there's a lot of space taken at the site office. So nearly 4 cabinets, and that's within the first 3 months of the DLP period. So we suggest you use an app. So everything you can look at it from the palm of your hands, essentially. Standardized report format. So essentially, if you use an app, every time you create the report, it will be consistent. So it will be standardized for each and every project you're running. If you're running 10 projects, no problem. System adaptability. Now, even though I just said that you can have standardized reports, but it still can be tailor-made to suit that project if it's a bit special project. Notification system. Again, this kind of goes hand in hand with the point of having real-time data synchronization. When you have, you get a notification essentially whenever there's an update in the system. So your contractor might have just updated his progress report, you'll get a notification at your email. If you still want a hard copy of the report, you can essentially print it out using a printing feature. And finally, it is a systematic digital library. Everything essentially is kept in one place. Now, I know I'm beating you over the head with why the hell we need a system like this in place, but I believe this is where the architecture profession should be headed to, especially for the sole props. It takes the boring stuff, especially, and it helps architects to spend more time doing things that they like doing, such as design. So put the boring stuff, use the app, and you can spend time sketching and whatnot. So who is SK4COD for? Of course, our stakeholders of a project. So your developer, your consultants. So for your consultants, it's not limited to only the architect. The other consultants can also use it. So of course, your IOWs, your inspector of works can use it also. Your main contractors, and of course, end users, such as home buyers. Okay, in my experience, during the course of a project from the schematic design to the final completion, there's a different array of stakeholders that is present during those phases. As such, each of the apps are catered to each stakeholder in these different phases. I'd like to introduce two concepts, EADA and KENDI. So definitively, E is electronic, of course. ADA is the Arabic word for tool or gadget. So EADA refers to the gadgets that we use in the system. So KENDI is the Malay word for jug or picture. So it refers to the collection of information that we use for the app itself. So of course, the app uses our smartphone. This is something that we have with us practically every day and every time. So the EADA can be used in conjunction to your smartphone. You can use it also on your mobile devices, such as your tablets, your computers, whether you're on Mac or Windows, in addition to your internet connection, Wi-Fi, cloud storage, and also not forgetting your drone. So KENDI, again, this is the collection of information. So by compiling all of the flowcharts, the checklists, report formats, certificates, letters, statutory requirements, such as Housing Development Acts, contractual requirements such as your form of contract, your contractor's work program, all into one kind of system. KENDI and EADA equals system and app. So this is how we approach creating these system and applications. Okay, for today's session, I'll be sharing some of our apps which we've developed for the contract implementation and management phase, and also the final completion phase. So namely, there's 4 of them. So third eye inspection, construction progress report, inspection apps, and building e-report system, or we call it BERES in the final completion phase. Yeah, so let me show you the prototypes. Well, prototypes and actual stuff. So our first application is our third eye inspection. So let my team change the slide. You can scan the QR code if you want. All right, so the third eye inspection. So it's a system, it's a site inspection system using drone technology in addition to your interactive guidelines, your statutory requirements, your contracts, and workmanship checklists. All right, so in the app itself, you can store your contractual items, such as your bill of quantities, your construction drawings, your form of contracts, and so on. So if you can see in the right-hand side of the checklist screenshot, you can see that we've implemented the Housing Development Act Schedule G, the stage of completion. So essentially, if you're at a site inspection and if you want to check whether the contractor has completed stage 2A, for example, then you can simply log into the system, and then you can fill up the form respectively. So if you check out the foundation screenshot, if you can see, that actually showcases the flow charts. Essentially, the task tracking I mentioned earlier. Okay, next, screenshot. Okay, so again, this checklist form is of the Schedule G. All right, so again, your different type of form of contracts, your data specs can all be had in your smartphone, essentially. Okay, scroll down. Okay, so of course, core features, checklist, user-friendly. You can download the reports, the push notifications, your secure data, and so on and so forth, and your video reporting. Okay, the next application I'd like to share is our construction progress report, or CPR for short, which we believe is one of the main lifelines of a project, to be able to read data and information by the contractor more effectively. So as you can see in the screen, CPR again is short for construction progress report. So it provides an analytical and interactive report for construction progress. Essentially, the contractor needs to fill in the data, and the consultants can then analyze the data itself. So Remy, scroll balik atas. All right, so in this screenshot, you can see that that's a compilation of the physical S-curve, the financial S-curve, the manpower, the machineries. So all of these can be viewed together or separately. So it helps a lot in terms, if there's, let's say there's a delay on site, you can easily, much more easier to point out why that delay might happen. So contractors might not like this a bit much because, again, because this is also transparent, the contractor might not be able to, do any foul play when reporting. Okay, so scroll down. So we've made this system and app as user-friendly as possible. So the physical and the financial progress is represented in infographics. So for example, your site matters, such as your RFIs, your request for inspections, your sample review forms, your site memos, all of those are consolidated into a quirky kind of graphic, football, senang kata kad merah lah. If the contractor buat hal, kasih kad merah saja. So the contractor will know instantly that they've made a blunder on the site. So usually, so again, like the third eye inspection app before, the contractor needs to log in. If you can see at the right, the far right screenshot, yang tadi punya. Okay, so essentially you can fill in the form as required. So again, when the consultant wants to reply to the contractor, they'll similarly just log into the system and just reply to the contractor. So again, everyone everywhere will be informed regarding the updates of the system or the progress of the site in general. Okay, so let's go to the next app. Now I know this is just snippets of the apps, but if I were to explain the whole app, it will take like literally 4 hours. So a long time, and we don't have time today. So okay, our third app is the inspection app. So again, the inspection app, again, you'll be provided credentials to log in. So the inspection app is a digital library system, an app to store information regarding your site inspections, such as the construction work defects. So this app is primarily used during at the tail end of a project, so just before your CPC and your CCC. So any of your defects that you found, the non-compliance by the contractor, can be stored in this app. So again, you need to log into the app itself, and it is sorted out by the type of inspection that you want to conduct. You can also input many other projects inside of it. So essentially, you install this one app, you can add more and more projects if you so desire. So after you've sorted it by the type of inspection, then you take a look at the units. So let's say you have 500 units, then it will list all 500 units inside. Then again, it will zoom in to the particular unit, and you can and it is sorted by the spaces that are inside of the building itself. So taking inspiration from the QLASIC checklist, we created this interactive checklist divided by the space and the elements that go into it. So for example, your floors, your walls, your ceilings, your doors, your windows, and so on and so forth, your M&E, ICT fittings, and so on. In addition, if let's say there's a problem, you can take a picture of it and just add a remark on why, why such and such needs to be rectified by the contractor. So if you can see on the far left side of the screenshot, you can see that if it's okay, you give a tick. If there's a problem, you give a pangkah. If it's not applicable, you just ignore it altogether, and the system will automatically sort it by itself. Okay. Right. So again, breaking down into these types of elements, you can attach your photos. So at the moment, our capability is that we can attach short videos and some photos, but it should not exceed a certain amount of space due to server restrictions and whatnot. So that will conclude the inspection app. And my final application that I like to share is our BERES app, which stands for Building E-Report System. So of course, it's an app to help end users, home buyers, to complain to their developers regarding any defects that they found during the defect liability period. And this app also helps track their progress so that the developers and contractors can track their complaints in respect to the Housing Development Act. So again, like I mentioned earlier, as a developer, again, you will instantly receive the complaints in an orderly manner. It will be sorted by unit. As a consultant, you are aware of the defects that are happening in the project. And as a contractor, you can now plan your rectification work much more efficiently. So let's take a look at some of the screenshots. Okay, if you log in, again, you'll be provided login credentials for this. But if you log in, you'll be greeted by a splash page or the dashboard where you can see the status aduan. So that will showcase all of the history of your aduan, whether it's processed or if the defect is rectified or if the defect is in progress and whatnot. So you can also check out the sejarah aduan to check out the history of the aduan itself. So for example, if you can take a look at the right hand side screenshot, you can see that there's a tunggu ditugaskan status there. So whenever a developer or contractor processes the defect, then there'll be a chain of history regarding the defect itself. So, okay. To send to hantar aduan, you need to input what the problem is and where is it happening. So again, this is divided by space. So let's say there's a problem in your bedroom. So you can just select the bedroom at the bagian rumah, and you can again attach photos, take pictures or video of the defect itself. Yeah, so again, you can see the rooms there. Right, so finally, scroll more. Again, core features, you can record the data. It's user-friendly. You can upload pictures, push notifications. So for this app in particular, anytime let's say there's a defect and the developer has processed it. So all of the other stakeholders are then notified, or you get an email, or this has been updated, please check it. Of course, again, data tracking and your data is secure. So with that, this kind of concludes my short sharing session on regarding why we need a system and app to help us. In my opinion, projects are becoming more and more complicated. As such, we need to use this available technology to help us, or I believe as architects, my talk. Thank you very much.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much, Rafi. I think it's very short and very technical. And I think before we move into Q&A, I would like to actually seek Rafi comment or ideas on not on the technical part of it, on what is your experience on the receptiveness and the perception of industry about what you are proposing, because I think number one, especially being a young architect, and then I think a lot of clients or a lot of stakeholders are actually very much into a conventional practices. What is from what you have done for a few years? What is the most challenges thing in actually like my earlier idea was you have to cross the KAIZEN, meaning that you have to actually make the industry accept this digital architecture practice.
Okay, thank you for that question. It's a mixed bag, to be honest. So some people support, some people do not. But if I were to elaborate more, essentially it starts with the staff themselves. Some do not believe. Some do not believe. Some believe. Some is forced to believe, but now they believe. So it's a mixed bag. But I try to, as much as possible, explain the benefits in long term. You cannot look at it from a short term perspective. You need to look at it for 5, 10 years, kind of thing, because I really think we should not be left in dust. That's from the staff's point of view. From the client's point of view, like I mentioned earlier in my this presentation, the one of the clients did not want to use the app, so now they need to spend manpower and people just going through reports and entertaining people. This is for example, our Beres app, building e-report system app, which is used to monitor defects. So they did not want to use it. So now they pay the price of having to entertain a lot of the homeowners. So by using an app, I believe they could have saved themselves a lot of headache, but what to do. But at the same time, I've been fortunate enough to have some colleagues, other consultants that are quite receptive to the idea. I mean, because they know that, you don't want to do boring stuff. Management can be a bit mundane and boring. So you want to do the more exciting stuff, the design, the whatever lah. So they've been quite receptive for that. So I hope that answers the question.
I hope so. Yeah. Okay, I think the next sharing of ideas is that there is actually two opinions on the digital experience for the youth. I think I think the what do you call it? Some of our graduates, young architects, or young practice, how would they actually, if they're interested in developing their own digital practice, what would be your best advice? This one, I think you're talking about apps, is actually a very advanced advanced idea. I mean, somehow everybody have a very humble beginning before they reach to a certain. Again, I'm actually very keen on the KAIZEN idea, where eventually from an innovation you have to move into another level of actually making it making it believable to most of the, like you were showing the slides. We have so many thousands of practice in Malaysia by land data. So 75% of it, when I see in the slides just now, 70% of it is actually sole proprietors. So I think sole proprietors always equate with a simple project. How would you influence them into what you are doing?
That's a pretty hard question for me to answer. Because to be honest, like I mentioned in the beginning, I'm 32 years old, so my experience might not be that vast and wisdomous and so on and so forth. But I guess my best advice to young architects, I mean, if you like, for me personally, I cannot talk on other people's behalf, but in my own capacity, I've always been fascinated with technology ever since I was a kid. So I've been growing up with computers. When I was school, I was the computer club chairman. So I've been playing with games, that kind of stuff. So that kind of evolves and kind of which is what brought me to kind of want to create a digital platform for architects essentially. So it doesn't answer your question fully, but that's the best I can answer.
All right, okay. So I mean, if one person started, so I'm sure there are a lot of others who actually try to actually digest how you do it. I think hopefully it can inspire the younger generation, because this digital thing belongs to the generation, the Z generation. So I think hopefully it is, to me, it's an alternative to the conventional. So it's not replacing, it's just like you said, value add. So I think that's probably is crucial into the young generation architects. My next question, Afi, is actually on the you are saying just now, if you look at the scale of minimum fee, we talk about SD, DD, CD, the one that you showed. So the interpretation that I have is that when you say the boring stuff, the management part of the boring stuff, actually it is a bigger percentage than the creativity and the innovative part, meaning that the design SD, schematic design. So then we have DD, immediately we are drawn into a process. DD, CIM and FC. So then we are left with 30% of our fee to actually take a lot of times from the construction period to, let's say, you say it's now the schedule G, 24 months of project. If there is no extension of time, and then plus the defect liability period, that is a lot of time with a very minimum fee left to claim. So you are proposing that the apps can efficiently and productively assist architect in managing the process, the CHIM and FC. Then the time saved for that by using digital, we have more times to actually spend on the design, on the creativity part, the SD. Is that the intention of you when you develop this system?
Yes, absolutely. Because of course, when we take a look at the phases that are involved in the project development, a schematic design to the contract documentation might take around, I don't know, in my experience, roughly around a year. But the contract implementation and the final completion might take a lot longer. 2 years, it can be 4 or 5 years, depending on the project. So again, with the breakdown of fees, from schematic design to contract documentation, you can get 70%. From the contract implementation and final completion, there's only 30% left. So unfortunately, during the team process, you're a lot more, you banyak bergantung pada other parties. So for example, the contractor. So if the contractor buat hal, then you cannot ask for additional fees from the client, because of course they've already said, oh, you get 35% during CHIM, and that's it. So they don't care whether if it extends to 10 years or hopefully not 10 years, a year more. So So by creating this app, hopefully, again, you could minimize the manpower used to kind of manage the site, and you can fully focus on the schematic design and design development process.
Okay, thanks for it. I think what you are saying just now is about standardization. When you talk about IR4, it is mainly on the using your apps to actually to what do you call it, to actually standardize all many elements of our paperwork or project management. And then I think what is your opinion on things that are now actually like, for example, I'm always actually reminded about the future potential when the Sungabi competition. You talk about metaverse, specifically about metaverse, that our young architects Kwazani have won the competition. So one side you are actually promoting a standardization. The other side actually moving to innovative economy, innovative practice. So what there are many ways I think looking at the digital to me. You are one side on focusing on project management, and then that competition actually have released the potential for future about innovative practice. So what is your take on that?
I think, okay, so standardization, innovation, which one? So I think there's no wrong answer. I think there needs to be a balance between the two. So standardization, of course, the boring paperwork everyone has to do. So of course you need to do it. Innovation, of course, current trends like the metaverse or NFTs and whatnot, they are popular, but I see it as if you're innovating in that space, you're trying to elevate, from the best to become better, from the highest to become even higher. But when I take a look at standardization, I'm taking the baseline of I'm attempting to take the baseline of the profession and trying to raise it up. So I think there's no wrong answer. Highest of the high, lowest of the low, we're trying to improve together. So that's my response regarding innovation and standardization.